Good evening, everyone. We are so thrilled that you are here to participate and share in our annual Circle of Friends celebration. That many of you have made the effort to be here serves as a reminder of just how important our work is. The COPD Foundation is committed to improving the lives of people living with COPD by helping us to learn more, take action, and breathe better. We represent the circle of friends that supports this community. Together, we help inspire innovation and foster the persistence that can help us continue our progress towards conquering this disease. Every day, we get one step closer. Together, we can help engage one another by telling our stories. Finding our common ground and connection to this disease will only make us stronger. And together, we can advocate beyond our cultural roadblocks and government policies and actually work on making a difference. Alone, we are just one voice, but together, we can raise awareness. In honor of COPD Awareness Month, our new campaign focuses on better breathing for better living. Lace Up for Lungs advocates for an active and healthy lifestyle for all. This is one way we can, as a community, can convene for our cause. Just by showing your support, you can educate others and help make a difference. It's easy. First, you need to show us your orange spirit. Then you take a photo telling us who you lace up for. This year, I'm lacing up for my Granny, my beloved grandmother, the one and only enforcer, Barbara Bush. 3 years ago, COPD took her from us, but her memory is forever strong in our hearts. The world will forever be a better place because of my Granny was in it. She would have loved that I'm here now helping educate others through her story. So now, I challenge you. Who will you lace up for? We have a great program ahead for you, including the Phil Everly Champion for COPD Award and a special performance from Joshua Raiden, a favorite singer-songwriter of Hoda and mine, who is bound to inspire you. But first, let's get started. Kicking us off and helping us lace up for a cure is the President and Chief Scientific Officer of the COPD Foundation, Dr. Ruth Tal-Singer.
Thank you, Jenna. Hello, everyone. Our Lace Up for Lungs campaign is an opportunity for us to raise our voices together to generate awareness about the needs of all patients with chronic lung conditions. The COPD Foundation's 360 Degrees partnership with our global community supports our commitment to preventing COPD, bronchiectasis, and non-tuberculous mycobacterial lung disease, seeking cures while improving lives and advocating for all affected. I spent almost 23 years in pharmaceutical research and development of medicine for people for chronic lung diseases. Over the years of collaborating with the COPD Foundation, I was inspired by its unique approach to patient-focused research, including registries and social communities. When I retired from industry in 2019, I shared an idea of creating a therapeutics development accelerator network within the COPD Foundation with Dr. Byron Tomashaw, our Chief Medical Officer. That conversation resulted in the 2020 launch of COPD 360net, the COPD Foundation's therapeutics and digital health tools development accelerator, involved in many exciting projects. Our Diverse Patients and Caregivers Advisory Committee helps us make sure that we partner on innovative approaches that address what patients need. Putting patients at the heart of what we do, our recent Bridge project aimed to bridge the gap between patients, caregivers, and COPD researchers by asking patients and caregivers in our diverse community what research they think is most important. The highest priorities for patients were a cure and treatments improving their quality of life. It affirmed our approach to COPD 360net and its vision to seek better treatments. Bridge also told us that patients want better medical devices and improved oxygen therapies. This resulted in the addition of Oxygen 360 project, designed to address the needs of oxygen users in our community. Patients want more independence to manage their health and help with coping with feelings of depression and anxiety. We will tell you later about our approaches to education, community support, and advocacy. But you will now hear from Dr. Richard Mularski, a physician and pulmonary and critical care expert medical director of our patient-powered research network and co-lead on Bridge project. The time is now for all of us in the 360 community to work together and lace up for a cure.
Thank you, Ruth. Since John Walsh and I partnered 8 years ago to write the first infrastructure grant to PCORI to launch the COPD patient-powered research network, the work has always been to focus and channel the strength of the COPD community and the tenacity of its members. With each new step, we amplify the voices of more than 8,000 patient and caregiver partners in our network, from embedded patient inclusion in all our work to launching a patient majority-led governing board. The PPRN has endeavored to ensure all our foundation's work has the patient at the core. One of the most recent efforts has been a PCORI engagement-funded project called Bridge. Its focus is to increase both patient and caregiver involvement in research and to understand the patient's priorities for future research. Barbara Yan and team, including COPD Foundation staff and patients like Mary Ellen Houlihan and Bill Clark, helped us develop a training program so patients can join studies as prepared and informed co-investigators. The first focus of the Bridge effort was to hear from the heart of our patient network, and the enthusiasm was apparent. As part of PPRN registration, we asked enrollees what matters most about COPD research. Then, using qualitative methods to analyze the open-ended responses, we identified themes, specific research items that our members emphasized. We advanced 25 topics to a vote using a crowdsourcing mechanism on COPD 360 Social. The result is the first comprehensive patient caregiver prioritized research agenda for COPD. As Ruth highlighted, the highest priorities for patients were reversing COPD, improving treatments, and ultimately curing COPD. These results both inform and affirm the approaches of COPD 360 Net and its vision to seek better treatments. As with all COPD PPRN work, giving patients and caregivers a voice, we strive to enable genuine active participation as part of the research process. An example of how authentic partnership shapes and inspires the current research agenda is the Reliance Study, a large, pragmatic comparative effectiveness trial led by multiple individuals, many serving on our medical and scientific advisory committee and here among our circle of friends, including multiple patients. Reliance compares 2 pharmaceuticals that can reduce hospitalizations. It's a perfect example of what can happen when patients and researchers affiliated with the foundation get energized to tackle an issue of what is most important to them. We have successfully created an accomplished community that continues to support efforts in preventative and groundbreaking research. The theme I want to emphasize is partnerships. It's research, like Bridge and Reliance, that can happen when we partner up with patients. And ultimately, it's breadth. All the work we do as part of the COPD patient-powered research network and COPD 360 Net are driven by the objective to give patients living with COPD a better quality of life. We need to continue to support both sides of these partnerships. And now, it's my pleasure to welcome one of our state advocacy captains, whose efforts have been tirelessly dedicated to helping patients breathe better. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Reynolds.
Thank you, Dr. Malarski. It's inspiring to hear about the efforts that we as a community are making to improve the lives of those living with COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, bronchiectasis, and also NTM lung disease. Now, I spent the better part of the past few years working as a respiratory therapist and hearing patient stories firsthand. Sometimes the most important part of my job is to hear what's not being said. People frequently communicate what they can, and it's our job to listen for the underlying questions or concerns. It's this ability to hear what the patient is really meaning to say that makes you a better healthcare professional and helps to develop a friendship with the patient. This type of relationship gives us the opportunity to help them understand the value of preventative measures, creating a partnership. Now, this partnership aligns naturally, and as therapists, we become the bridge between lung problems and lung recuperation by using pulmonary rehabilitation and telehealth. Teaching preventative therapies becomes a priority. For example, the way we breathe can always be improved. Did you know you can conserve energy and prevent exacerbations by breathing properly? But sometimes this isn't enough. We now offer inspiratory and expiratory respiratory muscle trainers and incentive spirometers for use in post-operative lung surgeries to prevent worsening breathing problems. We're constantly working to understand and convey the frustrating cause of breathlessness among our patients. Now, ultimately, it is their quality of life that becomes our priority. Having such a close-knit relationship with our patients gives us the opportunity to help, advise, and keep track of healthy eating, adequate exercise, and overall self-management. By using your mind for decision-making and problem-solving, you're working toward the solution, and we'll be right alongside you through your journey. Groups like CIRCLES, which stands for Clinicians Improving Rural COPD Landscape Education in Self-Care. Groups like that are keeping quality of life a top-tier priority. The rates of COPD in rural areas is higher, and the CIRCLE Toolkit and Clinical Consultant Guide are there to guide you. Having a patient-powered approach allows us to get down to the source for information and to take it to the next level so we as a community can continue to make strides in our progress. It's not just important to measure the disease, but also how the patient feels, how they function, and survive. Every day we build a stronger bridge in our community, and all of this will continue to lace up for a cure together. And thank you.
When my father was first diagnosed with COPD in the 1990s, the COPD Foundation did not yet exist. I remember fumbling my way through conversations with others who might give me some sound information about the condition. The experiences of family members, such as a grandmother who was previously diagnosed, those were the blueprint for us, and I assumed that Dad's experience would be very similar. Our family also relied on information provided to us at doctor's visits, still not knowing how best to advocate for our beloved Dad, or that it was okay to ask questions and engage in shared decision-making, which is not only acceptable, but really should be the norm. It wasn't until I came to the foundation that I became aware that there were so many ways for us to educate ourselves. It was here that I also finally understood that COPD is not one same condition and that the experience can be different for each person. So I consider it an absolute honor to be a member of the COPD Foundation team, helping to bring education to families like my own. Here at the Foundation, we offer not only support and advocacy, but also the educational and self-management tools to empower patients and their families. Our beautiful online library is full of guides, flyers, and worksheets to help people learn and to thrive. Our COPD Pocket Consultant Guide app, just updated and streamlined this year, offers patients and families a handy tool to document, track their symptoms, carry a personalized action plan, and learn at their own convenience. Our guides for better living help individuals with COPD learn how to live a healthy lifestyle and make choices that are right for them. These guides offer an important support system across the COPD journey. We help those new to their diagnosis cope and understand, then learn about exercise, good nutrition, breathing techniques, oxygen, and how active engagement in their healthcare can support them as they live with a chronic condition. Our tools support our community to engage in their care and empower themselves on their time and at their pace. Programs like Harmonicas for Health help our community by providing the benefits of stress relief, increased self-confidence, and a sense of well-being and socialization through the gift of music. As one COPD 360 social member said, you can laugh and exercise at the same time. Contributions from many healthcare providers have helped us develop a program that engages and offers a sustainable practice through in-person or more recently telehealth harmonica programs. The COPD Foundation has provided this wealth of resources for more than 15 years. And now our COPD 360 social community nears 52,000 members, all able to receive support, education, expert coaching, and information about research within our online platform. Our members provide us with positive feedback such as, the COPD Foundation has been my rock through my journey of COPD. And I'm so happy to find this site. It has given me hope. Every day, this community champions each of its members. And every day that I am part of this supportive group, I hope I make my Father proud. Please join us as we educate, engage, and empower each other. Let's lace up to learn together. It's now my great pleasure to introduce you to my fellow advocate and 360 coach, John Torrance.
It's not easy to learn that you're going to be living with a disease for the rest of your life. I had been coughing for 2 years without knowing why. Repeated visits to my healthcare provider gave me no relief. I finally got frustrated and became more insistent with the doctors. More testing produced the unwanted comment, "You may have lung cancer." This intensified the effort to define my ailment. In this day and age of instant answers, it is torture to have to wait 6 to 8 weeks for test results. Eventually, they came back with this awkwardly named disease that sounded strangely familiar, a non-tuberculous mycobacterial infection. Turns out my mom also had this lung disease. My mom was critical to my continued diagnosis. I asked her about her history of lung disease. She said she also had bronchiectasis. So I quizzed my doctors, and they eventually told me that I had that as well. I started wondering if this series of diseases would be the end of me. Will I still be here to see my nephews and nieces grow up? To have my own adventures? To retire and travel someday? I needed to educate myself. I read everything I could find related to NTM and bronchiectasis. I focused on whether or not I could and would survive these diseases. Challenging the doctors became my focus. My local doctors admitted that this was a very rare condition, and they referred me to National Jewish Health in Denver, Colorado. The doctors there were very well versed in these conditions and told me that I was lucky my doctors sent me before the damage to my lungs was too severe. I still had a chance. You need to be your best advocate. You need to be proactive. On the outside, I look healthy, but the medicines and treatment protocols can take a real toll on me physically and mentally. I realized that I had to educate my family and friends so that they can become my support system. If I had told them that I had cancer, they would have understood what was happening. But with NTM and bronchiectasis, they didn't know what I would be going through. My mom was one of my biggest champions. Her experience gave me somewhere to start. I handed out brochures and website links, and I conducted my own lectures about lung disease at family dinners. This is a very lonely disease because, for the most part, no one around you has ever heard of it. It's all very foreign. My local doctor let me talk to other patients newly diagnosed with NTM. Sharing our stories gave all of us the community that we needed in order to learn how to breathe better and withstand the treatment protocols. Now I talk to new patients on a regular basis. Their first concern is whether or not they'll survive this. I assure them that this is treatable. We compare our experiences and joke about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm fairly healthy now. After 4 long treatment cycles, I don't have a lot of energy, but I have decided that I will keep living until I die. It's important to not give up. I don't want to be isolated. I take reasonable risks so that I can still be part of this world. I continue to learn and to teach others about non-tuberculous mycobacterial infections and bronchiectasis. My message is simple. I am 12 years into this, and I am still here. Let's help ensure that others can still be here. Tell your stories. Join us so you can help us educate and empower yourself and others. Lace up to learn.
Hello, my name is Linda Walsh, and I'm the Chief Community Engagement Officer here at the COPD Foundation. And I'm thrilled to be with you today to share why I'm proud to lace up to advocate. Our dedicated and inspirational community of advocates works tirelessly with policymakers to increase research funding, improve care delivery, protect access to treatments, and create policy that enhances the lives of those impacted by COPD, bronchiectasis, and NTM. This year, our 3 policy priorities are access for safe, effective, and affordable oxygen therapy, pulmonary rehabilitation, and advocating for much-needed new treatments important to patients. We also collaborate on advocacy efforts with other leading organizations on clean air, tobacco and vaping control, health disparities, and vaccine access, to name a few. Right now, we have a unique opportunity to bring forward a unified voice around policy decisions for the COPD community. By building and fostering powerful and enduring relationships with our members of Congress, your voice contributes to our search for a cure and a better life for all affected by COPD and other chronic lung conditions. You make up our diverse community. We strive to create an inclusive and equitable environment that can support life challenges for our community. We simply cannot act alone. Please join me in adding your voice as we represent 30 million Americans with COPD and over 300 million worldwide. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mike Hess, the COPD Foundation's Senior Director of Public Outreach and Education, and Valerie Chang, an individual living with COPD and esteemed member of the Community Engagement and Advocacy and Public Policy Committees and a friend. They will be taking a deeper dive into our oxygen initiative. Thank you, Mike and Val.
Well, thanks, Linda. It's been an honor to lead the COPD Foundation's Oxygen 360 program and advocate in support of people like Val. I've been a respiratory therapist for 15 years, and I've learned in that time that a lot of times breathing issues go under-recognized because the voice of the people with those issues isn't loud enough, because it's awfully hard to yell if you can't breathe. As a respiratory therapist and advocate, it's my job to take that message and amplify it with my voice to yell on behalf of Val. So Val, would you take a few minutes and tell us your story?
Well, thanks, Mike and Linda. Excuse me. It is really, really so critical that we're all working together, Linda and you as advocates, and also as healthcare practitioners and us as patients, because ultimately we, the patients, have to advocate for ourselves. I mean, you guys can amplify our voices only so much, but we have to actually speak up, because so many patients believe that healthcare providers have this ability to be mind readers and know when things aren't working. But actually, the opposite is true. They assume if we're silent, everything's working just hunky-dory, because that's what they have to assume. They can't ask, okay, so what didn't work? When did it stop working? What do you think we should try to do next? And that's really our job. But we have to learn how to do that. And the best way, the easiest way, is for us to teach each other so that the next person doesn't have as hard a road to hoe as we did.
Well, Val, thank you. That is certainly quite a story, and it speaks to a lot of the challenges that people with COPD face. And it speaks to the importance of collaboration. You were able to collaborate with your clinical team and advocate on your own behalf to get the equipment that you felt you needed. They were able to support that. And I think that also represents the broader message that we all need to be working together, clinicians, physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, respiratory therapists, registered nurses. Everybody on the clinical team needs to be working with the people in our care, with their caregivers, with community resources, with everybody. We've got to be working together to lower some of these challenges and get people the resources and the therapies they need, because we're all speaking with one voice again. Again, it's really difficult to yell if you can't breathe, and we need to help you breathing a little bit easier.
Yeah, and the other problem is it's so hard to keep up with all the different modalities for delivering oxygen. I mean, thankfully, people keep emerging with new FDA-approved devices, and it's good for people to realize lighter doesn't necessarily mean better for them, but it's really hard for people to get over that. We all want the lightest one, but we want the lightest one that will do the job. If you have a really light one that just whiffs a little bit of air at you, it's like a very expensive doorstop, but it's hard to convince people of that. And so I think it's really important for people to remember that if they can get a 1, 2, 3 week trial of a device they're thinking of buying, then they won't end up with an expensive doorstop, and they'll get a device that they and their healthcare provider team are sure will meet their needs. Because it's really hard for people to remember the whole point of oxygen is so that we can do more of what we want to do more comfortably, more safely, and more actively. I use more oxygen when I'm doing well, because I crank it up to the maximum with my doctor's permission, and I row or I hike or I walk or I do whatever I want to do and I physically am able to do. And it's not a sign that I'm doing worse. It's actually a sign I'm doing better, because I want to do these things. And my body says, yeah, let's go and do it, as long as you give us enough fuel, which is the oxygen.
Those are certainly some great points, Val, and it's absolutely one of our hopes with Oxygen 360 to try and give people the educational and training resources that they need. People on both sides of the stethoscope, really, because we know clinicians don't really understand how to prescribe or how to evaluate oxygen. And we know that a lot of people who are new to oxygen therapy aren't getting the training that they need to use it safely. And, sometimes people very much are afraid of it, and they don't understand that you need it to keep it involved and engaged and everything else. So I really look to you as a role model to help us learn exactly what we need to be doing in order to help other people in the oxygen using community, and how we can do a better job to fill those needs.
Yeah, and they have to get over the thought that, man, I'm addicted to oxygen. We're all addicted to oxygen. We're living, breathing creatures. And
I'm
from the
rather
time
fond
we're
of it
born,
myself. I'm rather fond of it myself.
yeah, I mean, but even healthcare providers are like, I'm trying to get the patient off oxygen. I'm like, why would you do that? Why cut off the gas on the car? You're trying to get the car off of gas? What's the point of that? It makes no sense to me. But yeah, there's still a lot of that, unfortunately.
We certainly do have a long way to go to get to where we want to be, but thanks to the efforts of people like you working working alongside so many of us in the professional advocacy community, I have no doubt that we're going to get there eventually.
Well, we can always enjoy the journey.
Absolutely. The journey is its own reward, as they say.
Yeah, and I think we're going to also talk about the exciting developments with the FDA, that we're trying to work with them and come up with new and more meaningful endpoints for patients for the clinical trials. They have not really approved very many. And I've been taking lung medications for over 20 years, regularly, every single day. And none of the endpoints they currently have are very meaningful to me. One of them is death. Obviously, I'm not dead. One of them is being hospitalized. I've never been hospitalized. One of them is a significant change in how much air you can blow out in the first second after a deep breath. And mine has really not changed much in 20 plus years. So does that mean I don't get any treatment? That's really not a good idea. But when I did stop one of my medicines, it did significantly decrease my breathing permanently. So obviously that's not a good solution, but we were able to meet with the FDA in a listening session on September 8th. No, was it October 8th? I'm sorry, it was October 8th. And it was a session set up by the COPD Foundation with the FDA. And we were able to explain as to why us patients, there were 8 of us who spoke, why we and other groups with lung conditions really believed that the FDA needs more and newer endpoints to help us evaluate which treatments are actually effective and which treatments are not.
I think you bring up some really interesting points about, how do we get to a little bit more focus on healthier habits, healthier breathing, all that sort of thing. Because, again, in my 15 years as a respiratory therapist, I've found that most people don't think about their breathing until they absolutely have to. And that really slows down diagnosis a lot of times and kind of puts us behind the 8 ball when it comes to, figuring out what kind of therapy somebody is going to need, because we've already lost so much ground. I think personally, it's really important that people hear stories like yours so that they can start thinking about their breathing a little bit earlier in the process. Maybe realize that it's not that they're just getting older or that they're just out of shape or something like that. There might be an actual issue that needs a little bit more investigation, and then go ahead and take care of that and get on those appropriate therapies. And then again, collaborate with their clinical team to make sure that they're on the right amounts of therapies.
Yeah, and I think very few people really try to titrate down the amount of medicine they're taking, especially since so many therapies are combined. If they're combined, you can't just titrate one of them down and find the right mix, which is why I'm grateful I'm taking 3 separate inhalers. It's a pain in the neck, but at least I can adjust one at a time. If you adjust too many things at the same time, you can't tell what made a difference or what didn't make a difference. And like one of my therapies was giving me muscle cramps and was causing me dry mouth and a high heart rate. And I had to tweak and try eliminate one and see if it made a difference. But because I had them all separate, I could tell, yeah, my cramps are gone. I'm only not taking this one medicine. So I think those cramps are related to that medicine. But if I was taking a combo medicine, I wouldn't be able to say, oh yeah, I can't breathe. I'm not taking all of these medicines. And now I don't know what to take back. So yeah.
Once again, highlighting
a detective game.
And once again, highlighting the importance of collaboration, speaking up on your own behalf, and then the clinical side, making sure that they're listening on your behalf. So again, great examples of collaboration and how we can all work together to not only improve current therapy, but improve advocacy and improve the outlook for many other millions.
Yeah, and I think now is a good time for us to be talking to our healthcare providers and saying, you know, I've been stable this whole COVID period. Can we try cutting back on any of my medicines just to see if I can be well maintained on smaller doses and maybe have fewer side effects? Because I don't even know which side effects are age related and which side effects are medication related, you know?
Absolutely. So, well, thank you very much. I would like to hear, do you have any closing thoughts or any other advice for potential advocates out there?
Yeah, I think the more we can all be detectives, the more we can help our healthcare providers, because so many people assume, and I was guilty too. My husband is guilty. Everybody I know is guilty. We assume our provider is shadowing us all day, all the time, and knows what has happened since the last time we saw them, even though if it was 6 months ago or a year ago. Whereas if we just, give them a break and tell them a few things, then they can put things together like Agatha Christie and figure out, hey, let's problem solve together. What do you think is going on? And you can propose what you think is going on, and they can say that makes sense, or you're totally off base, and let's re-examine again. And then, you're working together, but you're not making them do all the work and guess things for you, because their guess is going to be everything is fine because you didn't say anything and it must be fine, because otherwise you would tell them. I also think our legislators and congressional team want to really help us, but we have to reach out and say, hey, this is what we need. We really need that telehealth continue to be funded. We need that respiratory therapists continue to be funded. We need to have pulmonary rehab via telehealth funded. And we need COPD to be a nationally funded priority. Right now, it's just kind of the orphan child that is cobbled together, but there's no dedicated funding for COPD as a national issue, even though it's a third or fourth leading cause of death. So there is a lot of room for advocacy, and we do encourage everyone to contact their state captains and try to work with the state captains so that they're all speaking in harmony. And I think we'll get further that way.
Absolutely. And I know it's got to be hard to march up Capitol Hill when you're getting out of breath going out to check the mail. So,
but you can bring your oxygen.
You can bring your oxygen and you can bring your clinical people. That's our job, again, is to, listen, to amplify those voices and to take up that message. And together we can do it. We'll find a way.
And with telehealth and teleconferencing, a lot of the advocates are doing virtual meetings. So you don't actually even leave your living room. Like this year, we just did virtual meetings for Impact 2021, and I sat where I'm sitting right now, and I was able to meet with staffers from all my congressional delegation, and they were very, very interested, and they seem to support everything that we want. So I think the more of us that reach out, the better we're able to make sure that our voices aren't forgotten.
Certainly, the more stories that get shared, the more likely they'll be heard and really felt. And then again, it's up to us on the clinical side to do whatever we can to support everybody and to really continue this drive forward.
Dream, dream, dream when I want you.
The Everly Brothers were best known for their steel string guitar playing and close vocal harmonies. Two guys singing as one. They dominated the charts on both sides of the Atlantic in the late 1950s and early 60s with a unique vocal style. Today, they still hold the record for the most top 100 singles by any duo in history. At the height of their success, the crooners charted nearly 36 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. After breaking up on stage in 1973, they reunited at London's Royal Albert Hall in 1983, and 3 years later were among the first acts to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Phil Everly was diagnosed with mild COPD in 2011. By his last public appearance that same year, it had developed into severe COPD, with Everly struggling to catch his breath as he addressed the crowd. He died just 3 years later of complications from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, just days before his 75th birthday. Today, his memory lives on with the COPD Foundation. Here to present this year's Phil Everly Champion Award is the one and only Patty Everly.
When Phil passed away on January 3rd, 2014, I reached out to the late John Walsh, the founder of COPD Foundation, and together we created the Phil Everly Champion for COPD Award to be given to musicians who help honor Phil's legacy. This year's champion is easily one of the greatest guitarists and singer-songwriters of our time, and I would personally like to thank him for helping me honor my late husband, Phil. Ladies and gentlemen, our 2021 champion, the amazing Vince Gill.
Hey everybody, Vince Gill here. Just want to take a second and say thank you for this Phil Everly Award. This means more to me than I don't know if I'd even be able to describe in words. And the COPD Foundation for this kindness, thank you. Phil Everly was a huge part of my life, a huge part of my musical life. The records those boys made together were still arguably some of the best records ever made. And I've spent my life being everybody's harmony singer over the years and trying to be Phil. And so this really is special. So thank you again. My connection to those guys goes so far back. And fast forward a bunch of years, my oldest daughter finally started singing, and we started singing together and on some of my records. And I finally got to hear what blood harmony really felt like and really sounded like. And there's nothing like it in the world. So much so that when she would sing with me, I nicknamed her My Little Everly in honor of the brothers. And so anyway, fast forward a bunch of years from there, she just had her second kid about 3 years ago and 3.5 years ago. And sweet little girl and appropriately named Everly. So their connection to me and my family is very, very deep, and much love and appreciation for this. God bless.
The late John Walsh founded the COPD Foundation in 2004. Since then, his incredible leadership has been a source of inspiration and a guiding light for all of us. He had an energetic style of leading, and he was relentless in his pursuit of public awareness and finding ways for disease prevention, and that jump-started a movement. He established the COPD Foundation, which now, for more than 2 decades, has been successful in building a very strong, supportive community of passionate individuals who now fight relentlessly every day to stamp out COPD. The John W. Walsh Visionary Award was established to honor individuals for outstanding achievement, vision, and leadership in the field of COPD. Now, the battle to eradicate COPD is not over. We need to be persistent in our efforts, and it's not enough to just build awareness. Today, we get to honor an individual who has worked tirelessly in this field and helped to put a stop to this disease. Dr. David Menino's tremendous support for John Walsh's vision drove Dr. Menino to become a founding board member and become its first chief scientific officer. To this day, patients remain his top priority. He has helped inform a broad audience through webinars, educational materials, research projects, advocacy, and by active participation in our 360 social communities, has made an enormous impact on delivering our mission. Please join me in presenting the John W. Walsh Visionary Award to Dr. David Menino.
It is truly an honor to accept the John W. Walsh Visionary Award. John was the inpatient patient who devoted his life to improving the lives of patients with COPD. He did this by bringing together a diverse group of people, including researchers, clinicians, business people, computer experts, and many others to create the COPD Foundation, which now, nearly 20 years later, has touched so many people with COPD, bronchiectasis, and non-tuberculous mycobacterial infection through its research efforts, social platforms, and patient support, in addition to its journal that is now the leading COPD-focused journal in the world. I am thankful for the many people who have paved the way for our community to get to where we currently are, including my heroes, the late Drs. Gordon Snyder and Tom Petty, who have touched the lives of most of us working in the world of COPD today. As Dr. Crapo noted, I have served in many roles along the way, with the primary purpose of improving the lives of our patients. Our view of what COPD is has changed dramatically in recent years, thanks in large part to the research efforts of the Foundation and its many collaborators. And while we have come a long way, we still have a long way to go. COPD, the fourth leading cause of death in the US and the third leading cause of death globally, continues to be woefully underfunded relative to other chronic and deadly diseases. We have not had major therapeutic advances in a generation, and we have not identified patients in the earlier and more treatable phases of this disease. Going forward, we need to develop better interventions for our patients at an earlier time in their disease course, and eventually a cure. John was known for his many quotes, and I'll end with two of them. Keep the faith and onward and upward. Thank you.
Thank you for sticking with us so far and for taking the time to participate in today's celebration. As you just saw, our Lace It for Lungs campaign is making waves of its own, but we aren't stopping there. To help me introduce our Lace It for Lungs matching challenge, I'd like to welcome the co-founder and chief medical officer of the foundation, Dr. Byron Tomashow.
Thank you, James. Today's program is not just an opportunity to raise awareness, but also about the continued battle to build a movement. Together, we can generate enough enthusiasm to make COPD the center of the conversation as we honor COPD Awareness Month.
Yes, Byron, we need to start the conversations now and bring this disease to the forefront of our collective communities. Most of all, we need more funding. COPD is the fourth leading cause of death in this country. It's ahead of Alzheimer's, stroke, or diabetes, yet it's number 155 when it comes to its position in funding from the NIH. We need more funding for research that will open the doors to more advanced testing and better medications. We need more funding for programs like rehab that keep our patients healthy. We need more funding for advocacy and education.
I couldn't agree more. Both James and I have logged in many hours to find a way to prevent this disease and have made measurable progress along the way. But now we need your help. We need to stop COPD, bronchiectasis, and NTM lung disease in their tracks. And to do that, we need you.
It's time to get more aggressive with this while Byron and I are still young enough to witness it.
We want to take a moment here to offer our sincerest gratitude to an extraordinarily committed group of special donors who wanted to help spur on the giving spirit and support the Foundation's critical work. And as a fun bonus, gifts of $25 or more will qualify to receive a pair of our signature orange awareness shoelaces, so you, like us, can wear your support with pride. We are honored to have you by our side as together we go the distance to cure the most pervasive and chronic lung diseases of our time.
Performing in honor of the COPD Foundation and those worldwide living with COPD, here's Joshua Raiden with Brand New Day.
Some kind of magic happens late at night when the moon smiles down at me and bathes me in its light. I fell asleep beneath you in the tall blades of grass. When I woke, the world was new. I never had to ask. It's a brand new day. The sun is shining. It's a brand new day. For the first time in such a long I know I'll be okay. Most kind of stories save the best part for last. And most stories have a hero finds. You make your past your past. Yeah, you make your past your past. It's a brand new day. The sun is shining. It's a brand new day. For the first time in such a long time, I know I'll be okay. This cycle, it never ends. You gotta fall in order to mend. It's a brand new day. It's a brand new day. For the first time in such a long, long time, I know I'll be okay.
Hey, I'm Joshua Raiden, and I'm all about the orange for COPD.
Hi everybody, Vince Gill here. Just want to take a second and ask you graciously if you would think about making a donation to the COPD Foundation. Great work they're doing. Over 150,000 people a year pass from COPD. Two of the most notable in my life were my singing idol, Phil Everly, and one of my songwriting heroes, Mac Davis, just recently last year. So whatever you can do would be much appreciated. I know things are pretty tough out there and pretty weird, but this is a great cause and would impact a lot of people's lives, and would be most grateful if you could make a donation. Thank you.